Hey gang, Jeremy here. Did you know that you can serve delicious sparkling water right off your taps at home? From plain or flavored water to cocktails and mocktails, it can be done. In this video, I'll show you how to modify an existing or new kegerator to add a carbonated water line in just a few steps. And a few sips later, you'll know why you can never go back. I am doing this video for the benefit of people who may have what's called a kegerator and are looking to convert it over so that you can dispense sparkling water from it instead of beer. Now, personally, I no longer drink beer, and I was in the beer making industry. I mean, I made beer, had a brewery and everything. Wanted a change in lifestyle, and so I decided this is the best way to do it. Is, of course, everybody tells you to drink more water, but the biggest problem I had was water, especially still water. You know, it gets old after a while, and so I tried putting flavorings in there. But I had this kegerator. Actually, this is my original kegerator, like when I first started getting into brewing my own beer. So I've had this thing for 10 plus years and it's still going strong. There we go. I thought to myself, you know, wouldn't it be nice to have that kegerator doing something instead of just sitting in my garage? And boom, right idea. We were purchasing cases and cases of sparkling water at the store, and cost aside, it generated a lot of waste. And with the amount of water that I drink, which is anywhere from a half gallon to a gallon a day, I needed something that produced less waste, more economical to produce, and I could have it whenever I wanted. So I decided best thing to do would be to modify my kegerator. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what it takes to convert your kegerator over. If you have multiple taps, great. You can set one aside for water if you want to do this. And sparkling water is great for a lot of things. It's not just for consuming during the day, but I mean, of course, you've got things like making cocktails and mocktails and all that other fun stuff. So it doesn't hurt to have sparkling water, not hard seltzer, but actually sparkling water. There's all kinds of things you can do with it, as I've learned. What you need to do is you need to have yourself a couple of parts that, and if you don't have this already, if you don't have a kegerator, no problem. You can go up on Amazon. They have kegerators, either small refrigerators like this Edge Star that I have on the screen, or larger refrigerators. And you can spend anywhere from $300 up to more than $1,000. Now, obviously, if you're trying to do this to save some money, you probably don't want to be buying the $1,000 kegerator. Especially, those usually have active cooling systems in them, and there's a fan always running, and that gets annoying as hell if you've got that inside the house. So, that said, you need yourself a kegerator, and depending upon which model you get, you're going to need some taps. And then on top of that, you're going to need some sort of CO2 tank and then of course kegs. So I'm going to switch over cameras here, and I'm going to take you through what we actually use. Okay, great. So these are the kegs I'm talking about. These are referred to as Cornelius kegs or corny kegs, often used in the soda industry. They hold about 5 gallons. It's a little over, about 5 1/4 gallon. So if you're somebody like me and just had a rough week, I will go through one of these kegs a week of water. Let me take you over here. So here is a keg that is full of water, and here's an empty keg. Okay, now how do I know the difference? Well, you just pick them up. Nope. Yep. Okay, so we know that right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to utilize this special lid that I bought. So you see the lid here, and you see the two connections, right? One is for gas in, and the other one is for liquid out. So there's a tube that goes all the way down to the bottom of the keg that as you push gas in from the top, it pushes it out of the bottom. So you're always getting, for all intents and purposes, the bottom of the barrel. In this case, you notice this lid is a little bit different from the lid on the other keg. Let me see if I can pan up there. There we go. You can see the difference. There's an extra post here, right? So I've got my pressure release valves, and then I've got this extra post here. Now what's that for? Well, here, let me pull this out. And sometimes this takes more doing. Oh, that came out real nice. So you see here, what's attached is actually this little piece of metal here, and that's called a carbonation stone. And so what happens is gas gets hooked up in here, runs down this tube inside your water, and then it eventually ends up coming out as little micron-sized bubbles into your water. So this makes carbonating your still water super easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace... There we go. Oh yeah, this baby's full. Okay. Sorry, that's what towels are for. Alright, so I've got my water here, and now I've got my special lid. Now, if you buy, these kegs come like this, and they'll usually come with this kind of lid, right? So, this lid that I'm holding in my hand here, this one is one that I did order online, and I'll provide a link to it at the end of the video. But you just drop this in, and then you get your lid set. Some cases it takes a little bit more doing. Okay, so now I've sufficiently washed my carpet, and now you can take a look. Here's my kegerator. See, here's an edge star. Normally what you would have, this is the tap tower here, and hopefully the lighting adjusts okay, but because I've got this guy in my closet, what you've got going on here is I've turned the tap tower 90 degrees because it's easier to fit the kegerator in this closet turned sideways. So now I can come up to it. Also, these geniuses that invented this, middle piece here, that's kind of storage space that gets lost especially when you have, that much space. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but perfect spot for a kegerator. And you can see right here, there's my tap. I'm going to talk about the CO2 in a minute, but what I'm going to do here, so what I'm going to do, I've got my keg of full water now with the new lid on it. And when you get your kegerator, if it's a single tap, you're going to have two lines coming in. One goes actually from the tower down to your keg. That's called the liquid line. And then you'll have usually a fatter hose coming from the outside, which is your gas line. So my gas cylinder that I use is pretty large, so I don't want to take up space inside this kegerator. So the best way to deal with that is just drill a hole out the side and then put the hose through. You do have to be careful though. If you're going to do an external hose to your gas, you want to make sure, you got to do this ahead of time, is that you don't hit the coolant lines inside your refrigerator, because once you do that and you nick one and it starts leaking, well, I'm sure you can figure out what's going to happen after there. Alright, so going back, I actually have a 2-tap configuration running into a single tap. So why do I do that? I always have one on standby. So the reason why I'm doing this video now is because I know that keg's going to be, that's hooked up, is going to be running out soon. So to create a dual tap configuration, you're going to need, in my case, I just needed a gas line to be split so I could be pouring or be flowing gas into both kegs at the same time, one for carbonation, the other for pushing out the water. Right? And so now gas lines are easily identifiable in most cases. the connector, the quick disconnect here, is gray. And if you have a nice keg, you'll have a keg that's got the in and out labeled on here. But in our case, since we're not concerned with these hookups at the moment, we're just going to go ahead and put that right there. Okay. So now we have gas flowing into here. Yep, we've got gas flowing in. Perfect. So that's going to start carbonating now. And if I keep this keg at refrigerated temperatures, the lower the temperature, the more quickly it carbonates. So let's say you have a party coming up and you want to have sparkling water. This is the best way to do it, about 24 hours in advance. That'll usually get you where you need to be. All right, so I'm gonna put this guy in here, and the reason for all the hoses is really because I have the 2 kegs here. I wouldn't normally need, if you had just a single tap configuration, you wouldn't need as many hoses flowing through here. All right, so I'm gonna put that in. Like that. You got to give yourself enough clearance for the door. And these hoses, when they get cold, they do get stiff. So you got to make sure you have ample space to put them away. But that should do us. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So now we have one keg that is carbonating, and then the other is in underserving pressure. So, all right. So back here is my carbonation tank. And you can see, hopefully, the regulator's a little dirty on here. So you can see here's my blue line that's running into the kegerator, coming out, running into these regulators. So if you don't already have a kegerator, make sure you have this dual readout on your regulator. One readout is showing you the total tank, and that's the one with the red section there. And then the other one is your line pressure. And so right now it's at 20 psi, it's just shy of 20 psi. I'm going to put that up just a hair. Okay. In a pinch, crank it up 30, 35 psi. These kegs can handle over 100 psi. Your pressure release valve is going to be the thing that pops first, so I wouldn't worry about that. But definitely make sure that when you are hooking up these kegs, that you give yourself ample time for them to carbonate up. So then, I don't have really a sample. You can see here. Oh, look at that. Was that right or was that right? That was the last of that keg that was hooked up. So I just hooked up a new keg just in time, but you hopefully can see the bubbles there. Alright, here I am. Okay, so going back to the requirements list. You need a kegerator. You need at least one empty, clean corny keg. You're going to need to get the corny lid, the carbonating stone. You're going to need that. And then you're going to need a gas tank. So if you've already set up your kegerator for dispensing beer, you're 90% of the way there. You may want to clean your lines or just convert it to a brand new liquid line from your tap to the new keg so that you're not pulling any beer flavors. But you know, in looking at these lines, I just let enough water run through them and boom, they're clear again. So I think I'm okay with that. Also for beer, when you're dealing with a system like this, you're usually running at about 5 to 10 psi depending upon the beer style. In this case, with sparkling water, you're going to want to be up north of 15 psi at all times. And that does two things. it ensures that if you're carbonating, the carbonation is being accepted or being absorbed rapidly. The second thing is you don't want to lose your bubbles. The saturation of the bubbles or the carbon dioxide into the water will come out very easily when you are just releasing that pressure. So you got to be careful about that. Keep a high enough pressure on there so where you're not losing anything. And then you can just take, like, this is called Stir. Let me see if I can, there we go. And Stir is a flavoring that I add to the water. It's not some stupid slogan like we make water better. Water's already good. It's just that what Stir does is that they use stevia to sweeten their little mix instead of other kinds of artificial sweeteners. So just keep that in mind. If you can find Stir, I know you can find it online because I bought it from the Big A. So let me take you back over to my computer real quick, and I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm ordering for the keg lid, just so you have that. All right. So we learned everything what's required to get your kegerator converted over. Again, 15 to 20 psi, 5-foot liquid lines. And why is that? Well, there's a certain amount of restriction that occurs the more narrow your diameter becomes on the liquid line. So if you already have a kegerator set up with beer, you're not going to need to change this. But if you're outfitting a brand new kegerator and it doesn't come with an appropriately sized liquid line, you're looking for about 5 feet of length and a 3/16 ID inner diameter. And the gas line really can be anything, but usually I believe it's 5/16 that people run with for most of that. So go to your local homebrew shop, do some research on Amazon, or you can leave a comment here in the bottom of the video, and I do my best to respond as quickly as possible. If I don't get back to you right away, it could be because A, I didn't see the notification, or B, the video's so old I didn't even realize people were still watching it. But so here's the lid that I'm using. There are a number of brands that are carried that would work. I just picked this one because I felt like it had everything I needed, and to be frank with you, at 25 bucks, you could probably find a keg for about 60, so you're in for about $85 for that keg with the special carbonating. But this is what you want. And if you need anything else like taps, I recommend Perlick faucets. You can use pretty much anybody's taps, TapRite, Micromatic. There's a number of companies out there that produce the tap towers. And so it's just up to you what you think you need to do. But again, if you already have this set up for your beer, then like I said, you're very, very close to having water come out of there. So really the main thing is carbonating in the keg and getting it at a high enough carbonation level. Now, as a slightly advanced topic, and I won't get into a whole lot of details here, but one of the things that you can do is buy what they call secondary or sub-regulators. And so, for instance, let's say you keep your kegerator mostly full of beer, and that's all being served at 10 to 12 psi. And then you got your water up around 15-20 psi. Well, in a single configuration where you're just dealing with what I showed you, which is the two dials, the overall pressure and then the pressure remaining in the tank, you can't individually control the carbonation levels to each keg. With one of these sub-regulators, you could actually just buy a second one and always be running 20 psi out of your tank. And then what you would do is anytime you're carbonating, it's getting 20 psi, absolutely. or you can go as high as 25 psi if you wanted to go this route. And then on the other sub-regulator, you would change that to your serving pressure, which is, like I said, it's probably going to be around 15 psi. So just keep that in mind. Like in this case here, this Kegco, this is one that you would want for a secondary regulator. So you have your gas line coming in to the two regulators, and then the secondaries, you dial up whatever pressure you want each one to be. So you have high pressure or high-ish pressure running into your kegerator, and then the secondary regulators would actually be the individual pressure to each keg. And eventually I hope to do that. Matter of fact, I know I have secondary regulators from days past that I just need to work on and do it. But I'd rather share with you the information I've got so far. One more thing. The water source is super important. Do not put just straight out tap water through your kegerator system. Go to your, if you don't have fresh, unchlorinated water delivered to your house already, either get yourself a whole home filtration system, and that way you can filter out the chlorine. You just don't want that chlorine taste in your water. And then the other option is to filter Brita or something where the carbon filter is built in, and you just pour through that. And then when you start tasting chlorine, swap out the filter. What I do, and this is something that you may be able to do if you have a good relationship with your local brewery, ask them if they'll just fill the keg with brew house water. And in most cases, most of them, as long as you don't pester them while they're working, have no problem helping you out. But that's one of those things that I wouldn't ask unless you have a good relationship with that brewery, because at the end of the day, it is their water bill. So there's that. So anyway, yeah, like I said, leave some questions. I'm going to leave the 2 links here in the bottom description part. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions on my experience thus far. All right, gang. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Appreciate it. And I'll catch you on the flip side.